Isan,
And Julie Dawn.
and we are right now coming to you live from Tsunami Books. And we have had our first ever no-show. So our guest is not here, but we are going to...
Second.
Is it second no-show?
Second no show.
Oh, well, there you go. We're just going to wing it, popcorn style, and talk a little bit about this and a little bit about that and a little bit about this and a little bit about that. So we can just get started with our regular check-in segment.
Oh my goodness. So I am dreaming of writing right now.
Dreaming of writing.
I'm at the point where I am just dreaming of writing. It would be just so nice. And so harvest is coming, with farming. We're coming at the end of the season and kids are going to be going back to school and I'm just dreaming of writing. I'm giving myself the leeway of because I haven't written for about a month.
Okay.
So I'm giving myself the leeway to just, instead of trying to shove it in places where I know I don't have time for it now, I'm just going to kind of mosey on through the rest of the summer.
Okay.
And take that. And then when the kids go back to school and harvest is done and I can just...
Well, that makes more sense to me because sometimes our writing is very cyclical, and there are fallow seasons to our writing, just as there is in farming. So
yeah,
I think that makes sense to me.
Before I was writing like 6 hours a day every day for
when the kids were in school last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And before that. And then before that, and basically ever since I started writing, I haven't stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go through periods where life just will not let me, it's really hard not to come down on myself, to give myself the freedom to be like, okay, just use this as your creative suck time, where you're just sucking in all the creative stuff around you, or try a different creative outlet that is a little less time, because it takes so much time to get into your writing zone and then figure out there's so much attention and concentration that comes into writing.
Is that true for you every time you sit down to write, or is it only when you're coming back into a project that you've had to abandon for whatever reason?
That's a good question. Yeah, so I guess my current state of mind is going back into it now, and then having to, whereas when I'm actively writing on a story, I'm like cooking dinner, but
still thinking
about the story constantly. So yeah, I guess
it'll take a little while, I think, to get back into when I left the writing retreat where I was, working on my book every day, I came back home and there was a day or two where I had to scramble around and get some other things done, but I kept up a fairly regular writing schedule off the tail of the, and last week it wasn't like that at all. And I did write a couple days during the week, but having other jobs and other client work that I have to fit in around the edges, sometimes I still struggle with the writing every day thing. A lot of advice out there is to write every day, and sometimes that's really detrimental, because there are definitely lifestyles where that is just completely impossible, especially if you're dealing with chronic illness or mental illness, or whatever. You can't write every day, and if you've got, everybody has their own life stuff, kids or a day job or whatever, and it's important as writers, it's important for us to write, and even if we make no money on it ever again, we're still going to write, because that's who we are and that's our calling.
I must write,
for mental health.
I must write.
And so knowing that about yourself, I think, can also give you permission to not write every day and to follow those fallow times. And it would be fascinating if you could find out, if you could record somehow and know, I don't write during August ever. It's just never going to happen. So you can just totally write that off, as as vacation or
Vacation
whatever,
time, yeah.
like, and just know that you're never gonna do that. You've got kids, they're home during the summers, you farm. And
Yeah.
I wonder if learning that about, okay, every August and every December, like, it's just never going to happen. So giving yourself a break ahead of time and knowing that about your writing process and writing style, I
Yeah.
wonder if that would be,
Set me at ease.
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
I would love to know that about me.
I learned last year when we did the last farm, and I had to give up some writing time. I had to learn to give myself more compassion in that way, and that was extremely hard. And so this summer it's a little easier because I'm like, I know there's going to be rainy days coming, and I know
Yay!
there's going to be nap time coming. So the way I deal with it is realizing that there's so much bad advice. Not necessarily that it's bad, but the majority of writers, if they feel a certain way or write a certain way, then you're just going to be coming across that more because it's just statistically,
What do you mean?
there's
Coming across what more? More advice?
advice that
Doesn't suit you.
holds the majority instead
Yes.
of the minority. So if you find which is, I learned early on that there was a lot of writer's advice that didn't fit with me because I don't plot and because I write horror and because, all these factors. So I just taken the good advice and then,
And by good, we mean the one that suits you.
yeah, the
that
one that
fits your
me.
lifestyle and your
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah.
Okay. Is anything else that happened this week that you wanted, or last week that you wanted to check in about?
Oh my goodness. No.
Okay.
I mean, I'm doing a lot of creative work right now because we're starting another company.
Another one on top of
So
the
it's
farm?
like, yeah.
And on top of the breed. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay.
So it's been kind of fun. So I've been like, okay, so I can use some of my writing as in writing all this new content.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's still
So
writing.
it's like, you know what? If I can make like a website that's entertaining and informative, then I'm good there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
that's
like,
writing
I'm
time
thinking,
for sure.
okay, so I'm still getting words on a page somewhere.
Yes. Excellent.
And I was looking through the local recreation guides, and I saw all the stuff that you're doing, and I was like, oh my god, where do you find all this time?
Well, all the classes are going to be taught at night, so.
Yeah.
It's not
Which
going to
is like
interfere
an
with my writing
off
time.
time for me because it's bedtime. Bedtime's like the busiest time of day.
Does
the
your
bedtime
does your
routine.
partner help you out with that?
Sometimes more than back when we were like newly parents.
I
It's like
think
it's some, but
I think that kids often veer towards the primary parent, the primary caregiver, and
bedtime.
for their needs. Yeah, for all needs. Even if I remember, my husband would be home and the kids would still come to me. I'd be trying to write and he'd be like playing video games or something like that, and they would come to me for food or whatever. And
yeah.
look, go to the other dude. Okay,
My kids can make their own popcorn on the stove. So
nice.
we're getting pretty good with their.
That's cool. My check-in is, like I said, when I came back, I had some good writing productive days. Last week, I was sick for one of the days. We've had a lot of smoke here, and I think that kind of triggered something for me. I was only sick for like a day and a half, though, so that was good. Usually I'm sick for longer than that. And so that kind of interrupted my editing and writing time, but
Yeah, we had one of the worst air qualities in the entire country.
Oregon did.
Yep, last week.
So yeah, I didn't get as much done last week as I wanted to, but I had a great weekend, and my husband was in a car show for the first time. He
Oh,
has
yeah.
a 1970 Ford Mustang Grande, and he
What
enrolled
color?
it. British Racing Green with houndstooth interior. It's super suave, very classy. But anyways, he was in a car show, so that was fun. All right. We were going to popcorn around. I have some, I can interview you a little bit. I have some questions, or I could,
like on the spot. Okay.
yeah, on the spot. And some of them we've already talked about before in other shows, so it won't be like a complete turn from the norm.
Right.
Or we can talk more about not writing conferences, but writing retreats, since I just came back on one.
Yeah, was that nice?
It was.
And you got how many words while you were there?
I didn't count all of the words. I don't know. That might have been an interesting thing. But I finished one manuscript, the memoir manuscript. I finished that draft and sent it out to my alpha readers. And then I started working on a novel that I... Yay! And I started working on a novel that I had, set aside the year before. So I picked that back up, replotted it, and started writing on it. So that's the new words that I'm writing recently. Now, next week, I'm going to meet with the alpha readers, and they're going to give me the thumbs up or thumbs down and their feedback on the memoir manuscript. And then I'll be able to, then I'll probably set aside the novel and focus on, editing and revising the memoir again after getting the feedback from the alpha readers. So
that's cool. You get to meet them like
face to face. Yeah, we started a book club, the Alpha Readers Book Club.
Oh.
So, so we meet just regularly, like a regular book club does, with food and wine and
I've always done
thing.
like my beta readers, like through the.
Yeah, I just do internet.
So I wonder if like FaceTime would be something.
If
be like, how do you like it? And you could read their face.
Yeah, I'm like, well, the reason I started the book club was because I was in a critique group that met weekly for over 10 years. And that was really what I needed to keep writing. And it was great motivation. And we evolved for so many years together that we just really fit as a group. And every single person in the group had an expertise, so your manuscript would get, critique on voice and critique on marketing and critique on the nitty gritty, like line editing stuff, and the critique on story. It was just great because it just got hit on all sides. But it stopped working with my writing process. I found that if I brought in new stuff, I would stop writing. Like it really writers blocked me because I was then writing for critique. And you have to, for me, my writing process is to write rough draft all the way through and turn off that editor brain. And because I was bringing in chapters for the critique group that were rough draft, then the editing brain got mixed up in that, and it would stop me writing. So I had to stop bringing in stuff. So then I was just going in and critiquing other people's stuff, which is great. That makes you a better writer. But after a year of that, it just started not fitting very well. So what I really wanted is someone to read the whole manuscript from beginning to end and give me feedback on that.
Yes.
And so that's why I started the Alpha Readers Book Club. So we meet like a book club, but we're reading full manuscripts instead of published works. So
because I was in critique group that met every other Monday, so twice a month. And we would critique at least 3 to 4 20 pages of each person's, so I mean, you're looking at 20 pages of material from 4 different people.
You must have met for
huge
hours and hours.
We met for 2
hours.
hours, so then you would, we calculated how much, and then there were certain people you'd have to cut off and say, okay, you're done, because they could.
Did you read it aloud there, or did you have it?
We had it
I was
ahead
like,
of time.
how did you critique that? Because we would read aloud and then get feedback right there. Because nobody in the group wanted homework.
Yeah, and it became a lot, a huge commitment, because that's all that time you can, you weigh everything. I weigh everything in like writing time. So writing time is my currency.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm like, well, how much writing time am I giving up? and how much am I still getting out of this
Uh-huh.
critique group. And then when I moved away, of course, I left the critique group, but I found that I was outgrowing it. That it was just not something that I needed it. I mean, I did it for 3 years, and it showed me so much. If you can find a local critique group when you're starting out, but you have to worry about
Getting bad
Getting-
feedback.
feedback while you're in your drafting
Yeah.
phase, because it can be detrimental. It can give you writer's block. It can.
Well, yeah, that's what ends
I
up.
mean-
Even after being with it for so many years, I found that it
Yeah.
just wasn't working
Yeah.
because of that. So,
It can make you or break you. But it's good because eventually, once you put your stuff out there, you're going to get critiqued. And I always joke that in my first writers group, I met my biggest critic ever,
Yeah.
and she critiqued my raw list stuff. I mean, this was my first of the first of the
yeah, zero
And-
draft, as Rachel
Uh-huh.
Herron calls it.
So I was fortunate in a way that I learned how to deal with critique and push past it. Because writing past that critique.
You have to have that skin, that writing.
And that's what they tell you. Like, if you stalk all the agents on Twitter, they say you have to have a thick skin to be in the industry. And it's like, well, being a writer, you usually need to express so much more and be sensitive, and so also putting on that thick skin it's a process.
It is like putting on armor or putting on the raincoat.
Putting on armor, putting on my armor to go write my book.
No, to receive feedback. You take it all off when you write.
Yeah, there you go.
So
All these images.
all these images. What is our time, actually? We've been chit-chatting for a while now. So for the last 10 minutes or so, do you mind if I just ask you a couple
no,
of
go ahead.
questions, like interview style?
Sure, let's.
All right. I've been listening for weeks and weeks, years actually, to a podcast called How Do You Write? And she has, she interviews authors about their writing process. And while I wasn't going to do that, I really like that she has, I don't know, like 5 questions or something. Then she always asks every author the same questions. And so it's really interesting
neat.
to get,
To hear
so-
all the different answers.
Right. And so I was thinking, like, if I'm doing, because I'm gearing towards a podcast myself, and
Okay.
while
They're supposed to
I
be
don't
really hot
want-
right
oh,
now.
I love listening to podcasts. I listen to so many of them.
I listen to audiobooks. I'm still in like this stage.
That's awesome. No, that's great though. If anyway, so the questions I have are questions that I think I didn't want to copy hers, but I wanted these are questions.
You want to try them out? Let's try them out.
Yeah, these
All
are
right.
questions that I think I would like to know the answers to. So this group, this TV show right now is about bringing balance to your writing life. So one of the main questions I wanted to know was, what do you do for self-care? And I know we've kind of already talked about this in previous episodes, but currently
I have none.
you have no self-care.
Now, all the
Don't do this at home.
I'm planning. I'm trying to plan play dates, and the mom's like, "Oh, I have to reschedule. I forgot I had a massage," and I'm like, "Well, I've never had one. That must be nice." And she's like, "Oh no, you never have it." And I'm like, "My self care is just like would be writing. Like any extra chunk of time that I have is I write with it because my life is so full. With 2 kids in school and now a little one, and God, I can't even count how many businesses I'm juggling at the current time.
So writing for you is a way to
It's my
escape,
self-care.
and it's a
Yeah.
way to take care of yourself. And okay,
Because if say I veg or I sit down and I watch a movie, it's time that later I'm gonna say I'm getting no writing time. And I mean, without words, there's nothing, So yes, that's that and then any other extra time that I have, fortunately, we've transitioned to instead of watching like commercial movies, we'll watch documentaries with kids. So like, I'm feeding into my creative pool because I mean I love nonfiction. I love ancient myths. I love ancient everything. Ancient. I mean anything ancient, give it to me. Especially things that are like really at the bottom of the bookshelf. You know,
Tinged with supernatural too, maybe.
Yeah. Yes.
Uh-huh.
And pushing into like the spiritual, the Zen, the you know. So then if I do sit down and I'm watching a movie, I feel like I'm feeding into these stories.
So you can rest at the same time that
Yeah.
you're filling the creative well. Cool.
Yeah.
So how do you achieve work-life spirituality balance and health in there too?
Before we moved back east to last year to start a farm, I was doing yoga weekly, which was amazing. And I just haven't found the time to get back on that yet. But give me like a good 10 minutes of Shavasana, and
Yeah.
I am just...
Well, usually I'd be asleep by then. 10 minutes of Shavasana? What about doing like a home practice? I've heard other writer friends of mine have raved about, I think it's called Yoga with Adrienne or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a YouTube show,
Huh.
and they just do yoga
Yeah,
at
I've
home
tried.
with Adrienne.
I used to do like the Pilates with the TV, you know. But now that we've gotten rid of the TV, then we have a laptop that plays movies. But the YouTube thing could work out. The only problem is I don't like yoga instructed by myself. I like doing it. I like having a teacher.
Yeah.
Like actually there. And probably because I was so spoiled with my first yoga teacher, just like nobody is gonna live up to him. He was amazing, and he made sure that, you know, some yoga teachers don't care if you're doing the positions right, but in actuality, if you're actually moving stuck energy out of you, then you want to do the positions like right in my
And you can hurt yourself if you don't.
yeah, and there's that, which some people in class looked like they were hurting.
Is there any life hack or tip that you want to share
Just in general.
on anything? Like a writing, it can be about writing or life or spirituality or
Oh,
just something that you do that you,
try to get out of your head.
how do you do that?
Um,
Yoga.
that helps. And the thing is, with the getting out of your head, it's, to me, I'm finding it's like a muscle that needs to be strengthened.
Okay.
So I noticed that the thoughts don't shut up as fast as they could when I'm actively more doing more yoga or taking more time to be still. And then also, I don't know if that's also playing into the fact that when I'm not writing, my brain's not being occupied by my creative process. So there's more blah, 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 you know. Food also plays a huge part in my life now,
Okay.
which it, when I meet people and they're like, oh, you know, you're just slim because, you know, you're lucky. It's like, no, I was getting overweight. I had a lot of problems, and we changed our diet, and then we slip. You know, I mean, it's really hard to eat
I
clean.
slipped this weekend big time.
And then you feel it. Or you see it in the way the kids act, or you act, or and then it's always just a matter of working to pull that back. You know.
Are you doing any marketing right now? My next question was, what marketing are you exploring right now, or are you having fun with or success with?
I just finished marketing for another company we have.
What did you do for that?
So we did like local ads, and we did.
And by local
we did a
ads,
Facebook
do you mean like
ad,
in
which
papers
I
or
think those are pointless. Like online,
online ads?
local
Papers
ads.
online?
Yeah.
Online papers? Okay.
As far as writing, I haven't, just because nothing new is coming out.
Okay, so
And
you like to campaign your ads and marketing
well,
for
with
new
the
stuff?
amount of free time that I have, my free time is going to go to creating a new book. It's not going to go to marketing my old stuff, because I've already put so much time and effort into those that it doesn't make sense for me to market those until like a show's coming up or something new is coming out. I don't see it as a return on my time right now.
I agree with you. And there's an author, I'm reading a book by her right now. I think it's called Selling More Books with Less Social Media. It's by Chris.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the author's name is Chris Syme. She also has a podcast called the Smarty Pants Marketing Podcast or something Smarty Pants. I don't know. But she said that unless you have, that there's different levels of I don't know what she called it, where you are in your author journey. So a level 1 writer might have 1 or 2 books out or none out, and this is the marketing that you should be doing if you're at that level. And if level 2 is if you've got 3 or 4 books out, and this is the kind of it was, and it's just in a nice little chart in her book, and I really like that. So basically, if you have less than, let's say you've got 1 or 2 books out, and she said basically the only thing you need to be doing at that point for marketing is having your scaffolding, your web page and your Facebook author page and an email catcher, so collecting emails from potential fans, and that's really all you should be doing, and just writing the next book, because and I have 4
That would have been
published-
helpful to know like 2 years ago.
right? but yeah, I don't feel the need to put money into advertising right now, because while I do have 4 published products, they're all in different genres. So basically, I only have 1. Do you know what I mean? Because they go to a different
platform,
a different market of readers. All of my books are read by different kinds of people.
I heard that that's really beneficial nowadays, though, because you get to dip your toe over here and then over here and over here, so you're drawing in.
It can be, but it's also detrimental in finding those, finding that market of readers, because I don't have a backlist.
So wouldn't you kind of pick by which one's doing the best? So if you have 4 books out, you go, oh, this one's doing good, so my readers will like it if I put another book over there.
Yeah, you can do it that way for sure. Or you can just have multiple genres and then feel called to write in a particular genre, and go that way too. So, all right, I don't think I'm going to get through all of my questions, because it's we got maybe time for one more? Okay. What's been your favorite book this year? We're halfway through the year, or a little bit longer now, but
like, what did I read? I read I should say I listened to the How to Train Your Dragon series.
Oh, for the YA or for kids?
It's, I don't know. I think it's for the kids.
Okay.
And so I go to the library, and the kids wanted to read the book, but we hadn't had time to like actually sit down and read the book. But we do a lot of driving to and from the farm. So I was like, well, let's pick up an audiobook. And the lady at the counter, the librarian, recommended we listen to the audiobook. She's like, have you heard it? It's by so-and-so. And he sounds like he's Irish, or maybe he's British. I don't know. He's something from over there. And at first I'm listening to it, and I'm like, oh, this is really hard. I can't take it. His voice is driving me insane. I can't understand half the words he's saying. And by about chapter 2, I was like, this is awesome. There should not be another person narrating this book. And it was, but there's a lot of good undertones and different meanings of life you can get from that series, which I was surprised with, because as much as I like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I hate the underlying family dynamics and ideas that it generates.
I see. I haven't read that series.
There's
Or the other one.
3 boys in the family. So there's an older brother.
Uh-huh.
The middle brother writes the stories. And they have like little stick figure drawings in them. It's really entertaining. The stories are, good plots. But the middle kid does not like his baby brother at all.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a family that's kind of similar dynamic, you will see that kind of behavior manifesting in your own life from reading the series. So it's made me more of aware that what your kids are reading has a profound impact.
Oh yeah, for
on-
sure. Books are life-changing. That's part of why we're writers. So we can change lives.
Yes,
So
that is true.
Is there anything that you want to plug or promote or share about what you're doing right now that you want people to go check out online?
I would give you all the plug to my new business, but that's hush hush right now.
Okay.
Just because I'm still creating my website. Woo! I like living art. And typically I would plug myself and say, go read my book, go buy my book. But I'm trying this whole different marketing thing of not marketing my books and just...
You can still tell people where they can find you online if they want to look at your books.
Do you want to look at my books?
Yes. So, juliedawn.com, is that your...
Julie-Dawn.com.
Julie-dawn.com.
Or just Google Yosemite Rising, and I come up.
All right. Yosemite Rising. Awesome.
I am not the girl from Willy Wonka. Okay.
Okay. What's her name? Yosemite Rising?
No, it's
Okay.
Julie Cold Dawn.
Okay.
Julie Dawn Cole or something like that. So if you Google me, that's what comes up.
Okay. Julie-dawn, DAWN.com. All right. That's
Plug yours,
it.
Valerie.
Well, I'm at ValerieIhsanAuthor.com, and Ihsan is IHSAN. And I am going to be teaching a class coming up in October on the nitty-gritty of self-publishing, and that's at willamalane.org for registration. Okay, so I think I hear babies approaching, so I think we should wrap it up. And that just means I am Valerie Ihsan.
Julie Dawn.
And we are leaving you now so you can go right now.
Right now.